His next opponent is very, very small. Yes, it's Bookworm.
Remember the site PopCap Games? They were known for their casual, colorful, but also addicting games. PopCap was founded by three guys, Jason Kapalka, John Ficci, and Brian Fiat. I apologize if I mispronounced any of those. Their catalog of work includes Insane Aquarium, Zuma, and the most popular franchise, Plants vs. Zombies. These games are all good in their own right, but the one I hold the most nostalgia for is Bookworm Adventures. Released on November 28, 2006, the game features a young green worm that goes on quests to beat up bad guys. And how does he do it? With the power of words. Imagine your favorite RPG, but with the rules and tiles of Scrabble, and the fantasy world building of the Page Master. This game took 2.5 years to make, and it cost $700,000 to produce with a core team of only 4 people. And despite that, errors were still inevitable. Even though BA, which is an abbreviation I'll be using constantly, be one of PopCap's most memorable games, I haven't seen a full review anywhere online, so it looks like I'll be making the first in-depth retrospective on this little gem from the mid-2000s and sequel. This is something I've always wanted to talk about. In fact, I've been eagerly anticipating this review just as much as my previous one, and since this is a PC game, you know what that means. Unless you're new to my channel and haven't seen any of my previous content. If you are, let me show you. And we're back at the computer. Before we dive in, I like to preface this section. I'll explain how the game works, but also give my own tips and strategies based on what I learn over time. As for the plot, I'll try not to spoil everything, just in case someone wants to play it for themselves. As far as I can remember, I played BA since it was first released, or at least since 2007, so I've gone through trial and error many times. Consider me as your guide throughout this voyage. Despite the title Bookworm Adventures, this is a prequel to the original Bookworm game released 3 years earlier, where Lex is the guardian of the Great Library. BA elaborates on how he earned that title in the first place. Lex is voiced by PopCap co-founder Jason Kapalka, and for what it sounds like, they pitched his voice to sound young. Whether it sounds adorable or obnoxious, debatable.
Welcome to Bookworm Adventures.
The name Lex, I think, originates from the word lexicon, which is defined as the vocabulary of a specific language. Given the theme of reading and books, I wouldn't be surprised. The game starts with Lex reading until Professor Codex, his bird instructor, brings his attention to a cry for help from Cassandra the Oracle. Without hesitation, Codex zaps Lex into a book titled Oedipus Lex with his magic pen. One of BA's trends is worlds are referred to as books, and levels are referred to as chapters, kinda like how Avatar The Last Airbender structured its seasons. Each book has 10 chapters and a map illustration. Every chapter is described in a box. The books also have themes. Book 1 is inspired by Greek mythology, Book 2 is inspired by 1001 Tales and Middle Eastern culture, and Book 3 is inspired by gothic and horror fiction, such as the works of Mary Shelley and Bram Stoker. So naturally, Book 3 is themed around horror novels, or classic horror movies. I appreciate how creative the developers were with all these themes and characters. Oedipus Lex is a pun on the Greek tragedy Oedipus Rex. Arabian Night of course comes from Arabian Nights, and Lexonomicon is a pun on Necronomicon, a grimoire from H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos. Books 1 and 3 are my favorite worlds of BA. Book 1 for its take on these classic Greek characters, and Book 3 for its gloomy, eerie vibe and soundtrack. The soundtrack itself is also a joy to listen to in both games. When explaining the rules of the game, the crew insisted they would be easy to learn while having to overwhelm the players. Chapter 1, Ancient Greece for example, is a tutorial level as Cassandra guides Lex and the player. Pick tiles to spell a valid word, a word that's in the dictionary, and then click the attack button to attack the enemy. A map shows your progress and how many enemies are left. Lex and the enemies have health bars that display how much health remains. The longer the word is, the more health it'll knock out. Sticks and stones can break some bones, but words can hurt you in this game. Well, words hurt the enemies anyway. The level's over once you've defeated the boss, the final enemy of the chapter. The boss is usually a culmination of the attacks you've encountered, or will introduce a new recurring attack. Chapter 1's boss, Polydamas, introduces Burn, one of the ailments you face. Ailments hurt Lex after various turns, Poison, blood, and fire affect your health, and power down weakens your attacks, resulting in less damage to an enemy. Ailments apply to your tiles too. Tiles can be smashed or infected, in which they won't cause as much damage, or they can be locked, meaning they can't be used. Tiles can also be altered to random letters, but this isn't a big deal. And then there's the three main grid ailments. Lex can be stunned or frozen, which can cause you to lose a turn, or petrified, which causes you to lose 2 turns. Suffice to say, the enemies have various ways of harming Lex and the tiles. Fortunately, after the boss is defeated, you earn new treasure. Treasures can increase your fighting power by causing extra damage or resisting certain ailments. They're upgraded by newer treasures with improved powers. Beginning with the underworld, you can only bring 3 treasures to aid you. Lex warns you of what's to come, but sometimes he'll leave out other attacks, so an enemy might catch you off guard. I'd say do your best to be prepared, because chances are you'll face trial and error like I did. If you're suffering from damage during a battle, you have potions at your arsenal. Health potions restore a small quantity of health, power-up potions increase Lex's attacks, and purified potions remove Lex and the grid of status effects. The power down effect can be eliminated by either the power-up potion or purified potion. And one specific treasure, the genie lamp, can boost health and power-up potions. I suggest saving as many as possible, and only using them when you feel it's necessary, like if you're low in health. However, enemies can also regenerate or steal Lex's health, as well as power up or purify themselves. They have their own defenses and weaknesses as well. Spelling words of a certain category will cause extra damage to that enemy. The Steinfalian birds, for instance, are weak to metal words. I recommend looking at the Cambridge Dictionary website to find words of a specific category. Conversely, enemies are immune to certain words or ailments. The Neiman lion is immune to 3-letter words, and other adversaries are immune to fire or poison. And then there's Armored, introduced in Book 2, where the enemy is resistant to damage, meaning they won't take as much damage, so you'll have to spell longer words to get some mileage. Now for some recurring elements of both games. First off, the level up bar increases your health, defense, and attack as you progress through the game. PopCap games sure love to level up their players. Every rank is labeled with a library or book related name, keeping in touch with the literary motif. Chapter 3 introduces the enemy's lores, which are descriptions of their attacks, weaknesses, and immunity. Sometimes they provide additional notes or funny comments. According to the lesser basilisks in Chapter 10, basilisks secretly love karaoke. Clearly this is substantial information. Additionally, sometimes Lex and the enemies will have witty dialogue after they attack. All this was written by Stephen Notley, who's written the dialogue and story for other PopCap games too. After Chapter 3, you meet up with Moxie, a fox who offers 3 minigames where you can win prizes. Let Her Rip has you spell as many words as you can for one big word within 60 seconds. Word Master has you guess a 5-letter word in 5 guesses. And Lincoln Spell has you spell multiple words within 90 seconds. These are like those activities from a puzzle book. Word Master is similar to a game show called Lingo, or a mobile game titled Today's Hurdle, which both have the same concept. This is my least favorite for how random or unexpected the words can be. Lincoln Spell, on the other hand, is my favorite minigame, simply because it's easy to win. For me, anyway. Every time Lex dies in a chapter, he gets sent back to the beginning, so the minigames are an excellent way to stock up on potions, should you lose any. Moxie doesn't have a huge amount of screen time, but she isn't too important to the story. Chapter 4 introduces the Scramble button. This is useful when you come across a grid that you can't make words out. Scrambling, however, takes up your turn, so use this button wisely. After Chapter 5, Hephaestus, the blacksmith, rewards Lex with gem tiles, each with their own unique powers that increase your damage boost to opponents, complete with slow motion and an epic announcer voice. The Amethyst can poison enemies, the Emerald can heal 2 hearts for Lex, the Sapphire can freeze enemies, the Garnet can weaken enemies' attacks, the Ruben can burn enemies, the Crystal has Lex be immune for 1 turn, and a Diamond fully heals Lex and adds 1 of each potion. Spelling words of a certain length earns you a gem tile. These can also be stocked up in Moxie's minigames. The downside is that gem tiles can also be stolen. Say you're attempting to use a Sapphire tile and then they take it. It's one of the issues I had with this game as a kid. Nowadays, it's more of a minor annoyance. The last recurring thing I want to cover are survival battles, as the sequel calls it. Learning in Swamp is the first chapter where there's no rest between enemies. It's one continuous battle, so definitely make sure you have enough potions and gem tiles. Especially since from the Neiman Forest and onward, the game, in my opinion, becomes harder. The difficulty was raised in chapters 5 and 6, but Neiman Forest is where the enemies have more HP and cause higher damage. Never thought I'd use the term HP. The genie level from Book 2 further increases the difficulty with the armor defense. Whenever you complete a book, you'll see a chart of your best words and average word lengths before continuing. In terms of criticism, I don't have too many issues with BA. One nitpick I do have is how many assets are recycled. Enemies share the same body types, weapons, or clothing, and backgrounds have the same props and details. The Quagmire from Book 3 recycles the backdrop from Learning Swamp in Book 1. You'd think this is due to a low budget. However, the developers explained they used a marionette-type system in Macromedia Flash. When designing enemies, the body parts were split up and a board of reusable body parts was created. They called this PAM animation. The crew were able to animate separate body parts individually. Their library also included various backgrounds, special effects, and sound effects. However, this unfortunately led to technical errors and hiccups. Regardless, the game still looks visually appealing. The environments are uniquely crafted, and the enemies' movements are fluid and smooth. BA actually inspired some of the artwork I've created over the years. Now that I've given a complete rundown of how the game works, let's discuss what you get when beating the game. Again, I'd rather you see for yourself. All I will say is that BA has one of those plot twists that at first took me by surprise. Not to mention it takes a rather dark turn. Originally, the free trial would have stopped at chapter 7, so you have to buy the full version to see everything. Completing book 1 unlocks the Tome of Knowledge, a reference guide to enemies, secrets, and gems you discovered. Secrets are sprinkled throughout the game, like typing certain words at the home screen, or spelling one of the crew members' names.
Cash money.
Book 2 unlocks the minigame hut, where you can replay the minigames to score big points. And Book 3 unlocks the arena mode, where you can battle against the bosses in time-based trials. You have to act fast when spelling words, and checkpoints will allow you to replace treasures if necessary. I'll admit I struggled a bit when I was young, and I still do nowadays. Completing Arena earns you clips and giggles, a collection of the game's soundtracks and illustrated comics. They provide some behind-the-scenes trivia of how these pieces were conceived. For example, the working title for Book 1 was Mythical Monster Buffet, which is a title that sounds pretty vague, frankly. This game was certainly an adventure for me. I still hold memories, albeit faint memories, of playing for the first time. Again, the increased difficulty might be a turn for some, but that's how games naturally work anyway. And I wasn't the only one who adored this game. BA won a ZB Award in December in 2006, and Most Downloadable Game of the Year Award in 2007. And the adventure doesn't stop here. Within 2 years later, the sequel, Bookworm Adventures 2, was released on July 30th, 2009. This was a big year for the company, as Plants vs. Zombies and another sequel, Zuma's Revenge, were released during this time too. If there's anything a sequel to a game should do, it should add new elements and expand upon the gameplay, while also reintroducing the audience to game's mechanics. And this sequel delivers those points front and center. The game functions exactly the same as the original BA. You spell words, use potions, and obtain gem tiles. All this is demonstrated in the tutorial and instructed by Stuffy, a stuffed puppet Lex knows that catches on fire. The actual story begins when the big bad wolf chases Mother Goose, prompting Lex to chase after the two into yet another book. And away we go! We have 3 more worlds of books to explore. Book 4, Fractured Fairy Tales, was inspired by fairy tales and nursery rhymes. Book 5, The Monkey King, was inspired by Chinese culture and Wu Chang'en's Journey to the West. And Book 6, Astounding Planet, takes influence from science fiction. As I said before, this game functions just like the original. Enemies have weaknesses, immunities, ways to heal and boost themselves, and their attacks involve ailments or damaging tiles. However, BA2 introduces new methods that challenge the player. Aside from stealing gem tiles, enemies can now steal potions, sometimes more than one. Because the max limit of potions is 10, this makes them an easier target. Your best bet is to keep as many as you can. Aside from tiles being smashed, infected, or locked, they can be affected in other ways. Warp tiles change to a difficult letter, though it's not a problem if you can use them in words. Curse tiles damage the enemy and Lex simultaneously when used in a word. The amount of damage varies depending on which enemy it is. Fire tiles are ignited and burn up the whole grid, except for gem tiles when you reach the bottom. They can't be purified either, so you're stuck unless you can use them. These might be a nod to the original Bookworm, where if a red tile reached the bottom, the whole library would go up in smoke. Aside from healing and powering up, enemies can raise shields. Shields can reflect damage back to Lex, or absorb damage so you won't take as much. The word immunity shield results in the enemies resisting 3 and 4 letter words. It's only used once by this monk, so it's not that much of a threat. Lex has his own defenses in the form of companions. Companions are one of the few aspects exclusive to Volume 2. Like the treasures, they assist in removing status effects, or strengthening his attacks. They perform their actions every 4 turns. Mother Goose occasionally hatches health potions. Cheshire Cat purifies Lex in the grid so you don't always have to use a potion. Master Wong stuns the enemy and powers up Lex for a turn. The Monkey King changes forms that harm the opponent or allow Lex to resist ailments. H.G. Wells shields Lex for one turn, preventing any damage, although only Lex is removed from status effects. And Skeletrox, a character important to the story, transforms random tiles into gem tiles. Having these fellows aid you increases your chances in this game. I recommend taking Cheshire Cat, Master Wong, and H.G. Wells the most. Mother Goose isn't needed once you have enough health potions, and Skeletrox feels pointless since you earn gem tiles anyway. Speaking of gem tiles, Cheshire Cat provides a new type of gem tile, the rainbow tile. Use any 3 gem tiles in a word and the rainbow tile will appear. It can be used in the place of any letter and causes a higher percentage of damage. The downside of having companions is that you can only take 2 treasures, and a dangerous attack called stasis can disable companions and treasures. Stasis means a period or state of inactivity, so neither the companion nor the treasures will function unless purified. The trend of introducing new things keeps rolling with Moxie's minigames. Moxie's back and she's the only character who hasn't been redesigned. The original 3 minigames are there of course, but now she has new minigames related to the book they're in. The first new one has you spell words to beat Moxie up the hill. This is clearly inspired by the nursery rhyme Jack and Jill.
Wow, that rhymed.
The longer you tread up, the more items you win. Golden coins has you spell 5 words in 5 rows to win prizes. Using normal tiles is worth 1 gold coin, and gold tiles are worth 2 gold coins. The number of prizes earned depends on the length of the word. Mutant Words has you unscramble 3 words that are based on a certain category. Every time you unscramble a word, you earn a little time back. How many prizes you earn depends on how much time is left. Word Up and Golden Coins are my favorite for how simple they are to play. Mutant Words is my least favorite because of how unfamiliar I am with certain words. Now let's talk about the game's graphics. The art style has been updated with vibrant colors, improved visuals, and more fluid animation. Lex is redesigned to be more expressive, as opposed to his limited motions in BA1. His attacks are much more dynamic and cartoony, almost reaching Looney Tunes levels. His voice is also more high-pitched than was in the previous one.
Welcome to Bookworm Adventures. Welcome to Bookworm Adventures.
The first BA recycled various assets, both the opponents and backgrounds. Now enemies have distinct designs that help separate them from each book, and the environments have much more detail and lighting, especially in the foreground. Once again, I won't spoil the story because I'd rather you check it out for yourself. Not to mention, the plot twist in BA2 is a bit more complex and somewhat confusing. All I will say is Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory perfectly summarizes the biggest issue with stories about time travel.
Oh, forget it. Time travel hurts on my brain.
Also, once again, I'll be talking about what happens after you beat the game. Like the previous BA, the Tome of Knowledge, Arena, and minigames are unlocked, but BA has another mode unlocked, Adventure Replay. You can choose which book to play again using the companions you gather, and win badges based on performing certain tasks, like using the amethyst and ruby tiles numerous times, or spelling words with the same letter in a row. Unfortunately, if you die, the whole game ends, so be careful. Bookworm Adventures 2 is one of my favorite sequels to a video game. It retained the core aspects of the gameplay while adding new aspects to keep the player engaged. However, I think I like the original BA better for feeling more balanced, which leads to my one issue with the sequel. I feel BA goes a bit overboard with raising the difficulty, like how enemies are powered for more than one turn, or how they can steal more than one gem or potion. I also wish Cassandra got a mention or cameo, but that's just me. The game also ends on a cliffhanger, and for a while, I was anticipating the eventual third Bookworm Adventures, which didn't seem to come. Then again, developing a game can take months or years, as learned from production of the first BA, so perhaps the team and PopCap were working on other games. Surely nothing got in the way of production. Before I wrap up the video, here's a small entry for my favorite and least favorite chapters. The ones that stood out in both games for both good or bad reasons. Let's start with my least favorite chapters, as in the ones that gave me a hard time as a kid, and still do. Number 5. Genies, Genies, Genies. The armored defense makes this chapter a struggle to get through. As already stated, the enemies won't take as much damage. Your best bet is to take the Medusa Bust and Genie Lamp. Number 4. Lion Frankenstein's House. The only enemy that gave me the most trouble was Frankenstein's monster. He can heal, power up, and purify himself. Using ruby tiles causes extra damage, but you can just get rid of that. Take the Genie Lamp and Aegis of Athena. Number 3. The Celestial Realm. Just about every status effect and tile attack up to this point is here. Only one enemy stuns you, so you don't have to take the just right porridge. I recommend instead taking the Master Zodiac and the Monkey King, although Master Wong is also a suitable choice. Number 2. The Machine. The last chapter of Book 6, and it couldn't be more appropriate. Like the previous entry, almost every status or tile attack is here and accounted for. The machine can cause way more damage to Lex. This took me several tries to beat as a kid and still did over time. I recommend taking H.G. Wells or Master Wong. Also bring the Master Zodiac or Semi-Flange for extra damage. And number 1 is Virtually a World. More like Virtually a Hell. This is my least favorite of the whole series. Enemies can steal both your potions and gems, so when you get to the next chapter, you may have to play several minigames to stock up. Take Skeletrucks or H.G. Wells just to be on the safe side, and bring either the Master Zodiac or Celestial Key for extra damage. Now for my favorite chapters, the ones that I felt were the most creative or enjoyable. These were hard to pick honestly. Number 5, Old MacDonald owns a farm. Emphasis on owns. It was an interesting take on these anthropomorphic farm animals. Plus, their clothes or outfits are kinda cute. For a record, I like drawing animals with accessories, for some reason. Number 4, Delphi. Like the Old MacDonald chapter, this was a fun take on classic Greek characters, or creatures. I think the commentary in the lore sections are some of the funniest bits I've read. My mother was a rooster, and my father was a viper. Is any wonder I'm such a mess? Number 3, Mirage Mania. One of the most bizarre chapters in the series, but in a good way. The desert has a twisted purple palette, and the dancing cacti add to the Mirage aesthetic. Side note, Mirage Zell is one of my favorite bosses just for being an opposite version of Lex. Number 2, The Gates of Heaven. This chapter is themed around Chinese calligraphy. After being drawn, the symbols attack in ways related to their name, like how a sword turns into a swords person, or how a door locks tiles with an actual lock. And number 1 is Robots 2, Electric Boogaloo. This is the dance themed chapter in book 6. And yes, it's a reference to the 80s movie Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Okay, Electric Boogaloo.
Lex performs the worm and it's so ridiculous, it's hilarious. Spelling a longer word in that chapter results in Lex's name being spelled. This is the most speechless level of both Bookworm games, and again, I mean that in a good way. Who knew this worm had the moves? Now for a quick montage of some honorable mentions. After 19 years, Bookworm Adventures still ranks as one of my favorite puzzle adventure games. These were the few games I played in my childhood that emphasized strategy, preparation, and trial and error. Sadly, with Electronic Arts having bought PopCap on July 12, 2011, PopCap shutting down and laying off its employees, and CEO John Viche departing from the company, it doesn't look like we're getting a third Bookworm Adventures, or any kind of follow-up. The closest we got was probably Bookworm Heroes, released in 2013. It plays nothing like BA and it didn't seem to catch on. BA was removed from Steam and the internet in general at some point, so no one could download or purchase it. I've seen petitions on change.org to bring the game back, but to be honest, these petitions hardly ever work. Just look at the current website now and you'll see it's a far cry from what it used to be in the 2000s. That said, this game is still available to download from the Internet Archive, along with compilations of other PopCap games. The closest thing to BA is probably Letter Quest. It's an RPG style game where you spell words to defeat enemies. You also earn upgrades, potions, and weapons for your arsenal the further you progress. I've never played or heard of it, but for those who did play it, let me know what you think. It's funny to see these games for a certain demographic include cruelty towards animals, children, and foods. And slip in some minor language if you can believe it. The donkey says ass in the sequel, and the first game just casually has the word damned. Hilarious. If there's anything to take away from this game, is that you and a little green worm have the power of words. And Lex has the power of guilt tripping you.
Don't leave me.
Bookworm Adventures is a really great book. Game. Anyway, I'm AJ Pearson, and thank you all for watching.